Phew, what a year. Hi, it's me, Byron Nominal Howitzer, recounting the year that was, 2019. As you know, my good friend Corey Feldman has been filling in for me recently, as I've been off with exhaustion in a day spa for the last 8 months. It really is hard work doing what I do. Respect it.
Just need a little brain salad surgery.
Misty Night Shyamalan is back, again, kind of, with Glass. Something where he took charisma-free actors, people with no on-screen presence at all, and somehow made work. It's a work of genius. There's just no other way, it's just impressed. It was really good. And the bit with M. Night Shyamalan, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Step aside, Stanley Kubrick, you hack. Yeah, I mean, Glass was pretty good, I guess. Yeah, it was, thinking about all the other stuff, which is pretty good. I mean, thinking about it, it was clearly something else, something special. I could smell Oscars on it before it even came out.
That was awesome.
And because I know M. Night, not well, but I know him. Sometimes we walk our dogs together, and after principal photography, he came to me. I don't know him well, but he's someone that sometimes seeks my advice, as many people are. And people talk about aura, and I know it sounds like foofy bullshit, but and it is. I mean, there's no proof that there's aura, but I could just tell that his aura was different. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Fabio knows what I'm saying. You could just tell. It was just, it went from sort of I don't want to say beige, but like a mustard yellow sort of thing. When you print out a document and you highlight something in yellow, but you print it out and it's like this horrible brown. It went from that to like a really serious blue. I'm not saying that means anything, but the film is wonderful.
We come in peace, shoot to kill, shoot to kill, shoot to kill. We come in peace, shoot to kill, man.
February saw European and local mercenaries re-enter Agoniland and systematic. Only joking, there's only a new flavour of Coca-Cola. That acid sting, there's nothing like it. Yes, February was dominated by the news that the Coca-Cola Company, not long ago a figure of fun for the tawdry amount of coca in their Coca-Cola, released a new product, Coca-Cola Apple Pie. And one of the things that I think makes Coca-Cola apple pie so great is if you ever find yourself dangerously low on borine, Coca-Cola has a revitalizing amount and the recess will harmlessly pass through your body. It really is a delicious drink, good for breaks, lunch, dinner, and even nights out. And I'm not just saying that to you. I really love it. Coca-Cola apple pie is still unavailable in most of Europe, California, Massachusetts, and Illinois. Are you going to let the government push around the little guy like that? That's not on, is it? That's not what people who founded freedom would have wanted? No. Click on the link in the description below. February was the month when What Men Want was released, to much acclaim, with some cinemas reporting huge rises in sales of tissues subsequently. I don't know why. We follow Teresa P. Henson playing Allie Davis as she proves that women can play hard too, as she smashes that glass ceiling after being recruited by a secret wing of the NSA, who use her to detect the secrets of world leaders in order to extort them. The film really touched me, and I especially liked the main character's catchphrase of, "An eye for an eye, and everyone's beaming." Also, I'm glad that nobody can hear what I'm thinking. I've seen things you wouldn't believe. Yeah, they'll know what it's from. As the snows melted in March, a combination of security pressures and convenience led to Donald Trump issuing an executive order normalizing the use of body doubles as his role as president. The use of body doubles came after a public mistake in late February that became a meme and was jumped on by the media, who, as always, was fair and balanced, but I have to admit I sympathised with Trump. After all, who, at some point in their life, hasn't accidentally sat on a sandwich? In order to work, the body doubles report directly to the president, meaning that Trump is now able to sign trade deals in Estonia, slash corporate tax that, let's face it, you end up having to pay for, and catch up on Gilligan, all at the same time. I wish I had a body double, then I could spend more time with my fans, who I love very much. I'd love to do more podcasting and streaming, because we all know that movie reviews just 6 times a week isn't really enough. Hashtag love you guys. March also saw one of the most highly anticipated reboots of all time. Something I think we can all agree is probably one of the best films on this list. No, it's not a list, is it? Keith Richards as his grandson is Jack Sparrow Jr. in Pirates of the Caribbean, whichever one you want. Pirate This, Legacy, Shadow of the Father, Little Long John Sparrow. Swords, ships, a bit of skin. It was like playing a $60 video game for a fraction of the price that you don't play and is 3 hours long. Also, the video game tie-in is really good, and I know people say that and it's not, but it really is. I played it all Friday. Also, I highly recommend Pear Richards, not the sparkling cider fit for any brunch, ball game or fancy night out, but Pear Richards, the clothing label from Keith Richards as his granddaughter, Pear Richards. I was at his neighbour's wedding actually, April was, globally, so wet that it became a matter of public attention when scientists, mostly in America and Britain, some others around the world, but mostly English speakers, for some reason, said that the ground couldn't possibly support the record-breaking rainfall, and that the world must be losing water somewhere over a lip or the Earth's rim. Since then, it's become internationally accepted that if the world isn't exactly flat, the rain's got to be falling off somewhere. After smashing a decades-old conspiracy run by what many now realise is the most evil corporation on the disc, Silver Compasses, leading members of the Flat Organisation Operational Liaison have since met with President Trump to discuss how GPS manufacturers, geography teachers, and the makers of novelty beach balls that look like globes should be punished. Also, April was the month that we got the funniest film ever to have been inspired by a mobile application. Shazam is the story of how Shaq and Shakira developed an app that further discards the need for human knowledge. Shazam, which can listen to a few seconds of a song and tell you what it is, and there's a share option too, so you can let everyone know what you're finding. The film personifies this handy little app, available for an exchange of access to biometric data, into Captain Marvel. Not that Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel. From DC. It's a lot of fun! Also, check out my debate on who the best Captain Marvel is, with Serendipity, Filmbot, and the Super Duper Sumos. Well, I mean, not all of them. The one who killed himself isn't going to be there, is he? What will we conclude? Marvel's fiery Captain Marvel? DC's rasmatic Captain Marvel? Or that something so clearly down to personal taste and choice can never really be debated upon properly because it's just subjective opinion? You decide! Or, you would. Obviously, this is a sort of yearly You're the one that needs help. You need help. Because that's a fucking ad hominem, you neckbeard. You need help. You're the... Welcome to the shill mill, melon of Nuremberg. You need help. Because you're acting like a numpty, mate. You're acting like a fucking numpty.
I don't need no speed. No. I don't need no heroin.
No thanks.
In May, Theresa May changed the course of the British exit from the European Union and political discourse as we know it, with an impassioned speech where she explained that really it was nothing to worry about because merely 70 years ago the world was still recovering from tyranny and genocide, and if you think about it, compared to that, Brexit's nowhere near as important, and really, nothing matters, and if water has to taste a bit tinny for a few years, well, that's nothing compared to the Eye of Jupiter, or the experiences of a tree that has been alive since before Cleopatra. May saw 2 films coming out that I'm talking about here, presumably. Others as well. John Wick, Chapter 3, Artemis Clyde Frog, Pikachu Bush Detective, which frankly went down a storm, combining all the things people want. Also, Men in Black 4. Starring Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. Just kidding, who'd want to see that? It really was as good as the poster, starring Schindler, Thor, and others. Also, there was a Colonel Marvellous, an extremely detailed account of the decline of British military might, starring Mickey Rourke. God, is he still alive? I mean, obviously he was when I've seen the film. He was alive in the film, obviously, since the 6 months since it came out. That's what I mean. Something you might not know about me is actually, I'm British. But, a really thick British accent even, yeah. But yeah, most people never even ask. In June, tragedy, as squirrels, possibly foreign introduced, breached NORAD's ventilation system and found themselves in the mountain fortress's wiring system, prompting 3/4 of the US nuclear arsenal to fire on Strategic Command default range-finding target, R. Kelly. R. Kelly was vacationing on his yacht in international waters off the coast of Thailand at the time. An outpouring of grief followed, with successes and failures. My YouTube series, dealing with the death of a celebrity you like, got 150,000 views in its first 3 months. Why not give it a watch, or at least follow the link there to my Grand Spectacular competition, which I only mention because you still have a chance to win $850, furnished by helptherapist.com. And one of those things that no one ever talks about Roy is he's one of those people who's just always hydrated. You know, he's just never dry. He's always always hydrated. Toy Story 4 is the 4th edition of the Toy Story franchise, and has Woody, Buzz, Potato Man, and Slotted Pig go on another adventure outside of the comforts of suburbia, in order to help Svenka, a mechanical doll that Andy is gifted in a relative's will, travel to Switzerland to be euthanized. The future looked rocky for the Supernatural franchise, after Don Rickles backed out of reprising his role as Mr. Potato Head by dying in 2017. Saying it out loud now, it doesn't sound right, but Keanu really did fill those potato shoes.
No way. Yes way.
Also, I just wanted to say, if anyone's around on the 25th, and you're near Cuauhtemoc and St. Clive, then why not pop into Bar Pony to check out me and my band, Men in White Socks. It's only an $18 entrance fee. With that you get a ticket that gives you a free pitcher of Long Island tea. It's the best Long Island tea in LA. They use 3 types of gin. Alright, so I hope to see you there. Also, I won't be wearing this. I'll be wearing a black shirt with a red tie. Because of course I will.
We are autonomous robotic organisms from the planet Cybertron.
In July, nothing at all happened. In terms of movies, it was huge because we got the live-action Flight of the Navigator that everybody has been wanting to see. I remember seeing Flight of the Navigator when I was about 8 and thinking, I wish this was live. I wish that it was actually Rowan Atkinson doing it, not just a bird. I remember thinking that, and they delivered. And I know that there's been a lot of stuff around of people saying things like, it's a shameless, artless cash-in. Disney don't do shameless, artless cash-ins. They don't just use any IP just for money. Disney aren't about money. I mean, you might as well just admit that your entire childhood was an infomercial. Also, July was the year that someone, we can't mention who, don't look it up, you're better than that, turned out to be gay. Alright, don't look it up though. I mean, it's easy to find, well, And it was a shame about VidCon. My favourite month, and my favourite part of the show, where I get to read fan mail. Alright, let's look at what we've got. Fabio. Yep. Thank you. Okay, can't wait to see what we've got in there. Love reading letters from my fans. It's a cease and desist. August was the year we got the funniest film to have been inspired by a mobile application since Angry Birds. Angry Birds 2, Guns and Butter. And its story about a bird left behind by its flock because of a broken wing, Angry Birds 2 certainly did take the imagination of social media by storm, igniting much debate about whether the film was racist or not racist enough. I think that was the gist of it. After months of squabbling around the film, much of the back and forth came to a deadlock, but then miraculously people started seeing the other side, being open to reason and differences in perspective, and collective human understanding was so adequately informed that those who engaged with Angry Birds 2 were taught never to leave their smoke detectors without batteries, or to allow themselves to be consumed by jealousy, or taken in by volatile pension schemes, and these things stopped happening forever and ever.
Toongas. That's great. It's gonna be great. Toongas.
In September, It 2, Joker. It 2, Joker hit the screens, and we enjoyed River Phoenix's brother as he led a group of adults hunting it, as it hunted them, but as they hunted it. Remember it? Remember how it somehow felt like you were watching Stand By Me for the first time again? Well, It 2... Am I talking about Stranger Things? Or the Tim Curry 2 episode thing? Like watching that for the first time?
Oh, come on, bucko.
But you're not. You're watching something that makes you feel like that. But those things never felt like that because when you watched them for the first time, they were new and not reminding you of something else. Well, It 2 doesn't make you feel like that. It does, because it's the 80s, which is great. September also saw Twitter finally win the social media war after expending no small amount of time or money. After experimenting with character limits, Twitter finally found that the optimal amount of characters is 7. You can find me on Twitter at JACK. I'll make it sound good. Just give me this. Alright, just crop. October saw the release of Gemini Man, starring Will Smith, and follows an aging assassin who finds himself in a battle with his clone, who is 25 years younger and the peak of physical fitness. Directed by Ang Lee! November was, sadly, the month Maureen was linked to Sandler spectrum disorder, a condition that can often lie dormant for years. When it develops, it disrupts the nervous system and can affect how people are able to express joy, leads to hoarding behaviour, and makes people be unable to taste anything except thoroughly boiled cabbage. Sandlerism, as it's popularly known, has been sweeping Beverly Hills, and just like Spanish flu, it hits the youngest and most wonderful people first. Doctors say it most easily manifests in very successful men, who've given to the world as much as any widely known artist or civil engineer, but go unrecognised and uncelebrated, at least comparatively to what they deserve. For just the price of a daily shrimp risotto at my favourite restaurant in West Hollywood, Sufsa. Sexy, unique, famous, surprisingly affordable. You can help overlooked and underappreciated celebrities feel better about themselves. Just $250 can give Robert a week with a young new assistant, who is both professional but also far more familiar with his classic work than her age might suggest, and very willing to talk about it. Ridley might have an honorary doctorate from the Royal College of Art, but he'll never be able to stop thinking about bread. Johnny used to be really cute and bankable. Why shouldn't he be treated like he still is? We all knew, going into Terminator 6 Dreamcast, 2 E's, that the face of the actor playing John Connor Babies was going to be replaced with that of an 11-year-old Edward Furlong, and we all agreed that that was definitely the best thing to do. What no one knew until the premiere of Terminator 6 Dreamcast was that Every single actor in Terminator 6 Dreamcast would also have their face digitally replaced with that of Edward Furlong, aged proportionally, in a way that, as crazy as it sounds, totally worked. Obviously the voices and bodies are unaltered. Edward Furlong isn't credited, as the contract he signed at 11 is legally binding forever, but it was nice to see him getting some exposure. And that bit where Jai Courtney is erased from existence, meta. Very meta. I really don't know which was the better film of November, Terminator 6 or Sonic the Hedgehog. If you like video games, you'll definitely know what Sonic's all about. And Terminator, you just don't have to say anything. People know what that is. Very recognisable. They're both very recognisable, really. And brilliant. And with Terminator 6, they just keep getting better, don't they?
But there were those among us who were jealous of his powers.
December, well, the first 3 weeks of December, let me tell you all about that because it was crazy. But before I do, check out the Shillmaster website. It's not gambling, all right? I know it looks like that, but it's not. There's gambling on it.
Going to be some of those famous Wookie-Ookies?
After one of the most difficult shoots in modern history, Disney scrapped almost all of the footage they had captured for Star Wars Episode 9. They went through a string of directors before finally caving into pressure and giving full creative control back to George Lucas, who, the madman, went on to direct one of the best films ever made. Star Wars Episode 9, directed by George Lucas. Star Wars Episode 9. Please. The fans loved it. As did I. For the same reasons. 2020 has many films in store for us that look absolutely terrific, including Mission Impossible 7, Ghost Train, and Passion of the Christ 2, Jesus, Aftermath, Dr. Dolittle, the reboot, Neat. Also, the reboot I can't wait for, Sony, The Hunger Games. I'm also especially looking forward to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air film that's coming out this year, Established and Rich. Jurassic World, The Lost World That Time Forgot, Beneath the Sea. Transformers 14, Robots in Disguise, In the Skies, In the Shadows. And my own favourite, Terminator 7, an unnamed prequel starring Benedict Cumberbatch as a man who invents a semiconductor. I can't wait. Madam, please.